What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I am here with episode 34 of the Be Great podcast. This might be a little bit of a shorter episode today. Obviously, we don't have games to go over, although we do have some bowl games. We have a couple of bowl games going on tomorrow. The Cricket Celebration Bowl, the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl. We have a bowl game on let's see, Tuesday as well, the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. But I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about some of these bowl games that I like. Maybe I'll give my top 5 favorite bowl games that are non-college football playoff games, and I'll give my picks for the Cricket Celebration Bowl and the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl. That's a mouthful. Because those are the only 2 bowl games that will happen between this episode and my next episode on Tuesday. We will also go over the transfer portal because that's the only other thing to do. Because obviously the playoff games are still about a little over a week away. Well, Notre Dame, Indiana is exactly a week away, but you get my point. And I think we got to talk about Bill Belichik to North Carolina, which is something. So I'll start off with these 2 meaningless bowl games that no one's going to watch. So the first one, we have the Cricket Celebration Bowl, Jackson State versus South Carolina State. I'm going to go with Jackson State just because. And then the Salute to Veterans Bowl, South Alabama versus Western Michigan. You know, I saw a lot of people say this is going to be a high-scoring affair. But you know what? Give me South Alabama. I did do a rebuild dynasty on College Football 25 with Western Michigan, but I think South Alabama is the better team. So give me the Jags. As far as my top 5 favorite bowl games, you know, I think there's some interesting ones for sure. I'll just name out some ones I'm thinking about here. I think Tulane versus Florida could be interesting. I think, let's see, Georgia Tech Vandy could be interesting. Texas Tech Arkansas maybe. But give me, my top 5 favorite bowl games. Give me Texas A&M USC. I think that's for sure a top 5 bowl game this year. I think that game could be fun. I think it could be electric. And I just love that matchup in the what is this? The Las Vegas Bowl. Okay, interesting, I guess. Another one. Am I interested in Iowa State, Miami? Am I interested in that? I don't know because I could see Miami just absolutely annihilating them. Give me the Alamo Bowl, BYU, Colorado. I mean, it's basically just a Big 12 matchup, but 2 of the better teams in the Big 12, and I definitely think it's better with the fact that Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders is going to play. Deion wants his team to play, and which I do like that Deion is doing that. So give me BYU, Colorado. I mean, Alabama, Michigan has to be one, although I have a feeling Alabama is going to beat them by 40. Give me Alabama, Michigan as a top 5 bowl game in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Oh my gosh, that's electric. Baylor LSU, I think is a low key one. I think it's an interesting one. We'll see how many people we have show up for LSU. I know Garrett Nussmeier, he announced that he'll be returning, so I would assume he'll be playing. I know LSU will be missing both of their offensive tackles, Emory Jones and Will Campbell, because they both have declared for the draft. We'll see about Harold Perkins. I don't think he's declared for the draft, so we'll see if he plays. Although I think he might. Maybe he's still injured. I'm not sure, but I think that one could definitely be a fun one for sure. What's another one? By the way, if you hear something squeaking, it's because my dog has now decided, now that I'm doing this podcast, to start squeaking her toy, because naturally that's what you do in order to distract people while they are doing their thing. Louisville, Washington, I think could be an interesting one in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. these names. Yeah, I like Louisville versus Washington. I don't have much reason for it other than just a gut feeling, to be quite honest. I don't even know how many I've said. Is that 4? Have I said 4? Have I said 5? I could have said 7. I don't know. But I'll choose Tulane and Florida as my other one. I think that one, I think Florida will win handedly, but I could see Tulane making it interesting for sure. But let's move on. Let's talk. Should we go transfer portal? Should we go Bill Belichick? What should we go here? Let's go Bill Belichick. So a lot of people are going kind of back and forth. So there's people who think, oh, North Carolina job, that's beneath Bill Belichick. And there's people, oh, I don't know if that's going to work. Can Bill Belichick, can he adapt to the college game? Can he recruit? This, that, and the other. Look, Bill Belichick is how old? He's in what, 60s, 70s? And he's dating some 20-year-old girl. So it sounds to me like he can recruit pretty well, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know if Bill Belichick himself will be a good recruiter necessarily. But I think his name alone could get some kids to come to North Carolina and play. But I think he could hire people who can be good recruiters. That's what I think. And I think that's what's important. Because a lot of the times the head coach can be a good recruiter, but it's really the assistant coaches that you need to be really good recruiters. Like Fran Brown, before he was the head coach of Syracuse, when he was at Georgia, he was a tremendous recruiter. Dan Lanning, same thing. Glenn Schumann there now, he's a really good recruiter. And obviously Kirby's a good recruiter in his own right, but you get my point. And you look at, Nick Saban's a good recruiter, right? But he had Kirby Smart, who was a good recruiter, Lane Kiffin, Sark. So, I think Bill can hire some people there at UNC that can recruit kids at a high level. And I think Bill Belichick can succeed at North Carolina. And I think that him going there instantly makes the team better than they were this past year. Because you have to remember, North Carolina was not good this year, especially defensively. And Bill Belichick, he's a defensive mindset guy. So instantaneously, their defense is going to be better. Like once the hire was made, their defense became better. That's just the reality. I do think that there could be some high school recruits that could be intrigued, and some transfer portal guys that could be intrigued to go there because maybe they think that by playing under Bill Belichick, getting developed by Bill Belichick, it could really help them get into the NFL and be prepared for the NFL. And I could totally see that being the case. All I know is that I will be very locked in and intrigued to watch North Carolina next year, which maybe that's part of the reason that this happened. Maybe they know they're going to get eyeballs. They're going to get some press because they have Bill Belichick. Maybe that's part of the point. But I'm definitely going to be intrigued to see how North Carolina does in the transfer portal and recruiting going forward, and most importantly, how they play on the field and how they perform. So that should definitely be interesting. I know UCF has hired Scott Frost to once again be their head coach. If you remember, Scott Frost was their head coach when they quote unquote won a national championship, and then he obviously went to Nebraska and was a massive, massive fail. But it is what it is. Now he's back at UCF. You have, oh my gosh, Dan Mullen. I forgot his name for a second. It left me. He's now the head coach of UNLV, which was an intriguing move for UNLV for sure. But I like the move for UNLV. I'm a little shocked that Dan Mullen couldn't get a better job than UNLV, but I think he can really do some good things there, and then let it be a stepping stone to him getting another Power 4 job again. So yeah, I like that move for UNLV for sure. And UNLV's head coach, Barry Odom, he took the Purdue job. I don't really understand what Purdue is doing. I didn't like their hire in Walters. And I don't like this hire either. They just feel like such boring mid hires that won't do much for you. I don't think you'll be worse than you were with Walters, because that would be hard to do. I do think you'll be better in recruiting and play on the field, but this isn't going to make Purdue, the next, Indiana with Signetti. That's not what's going to happen here. They'll win some games. They might make a bowl game or two, but that's all this is going to be. And Barry Odom will be fired in like 5 years. I just don't get the point. I really wish Purdue would try and make a splash hire. Like, I wish Purdue would have hired Dan Mullen. Can you imagine that? I think that could be great. But they went with Barry Odom, and it is what it is. So let's talk about the big thing that's going on here, and that's the transfer portal, obviously. So I like On3 for the transfer portal personally. That's just my preference. It shows you the top transfer portal guys, where they're coming from and where they're possibly going, the percentages once I've already committed. So the number one player in the transfer portal still is Eric Singleton Jr., wide receiver out of Georgia Tech. So it looks like, as of right now, they have him at a 52% chance to end up at Auburn, with second being Ole Miss. As far as those two locations, I think that'd be tremendous for Auburn to get Eric Singleton Jr. You already have Cam Coleman. Getting Eric Singleton Jr. as well, along with getting a quarterback or two in there, it could really help Auburn and make them a lot better next year. So I think that could be a really good move for Auburn. Kevin Concepcion, wide receiver out of NC State. I know there's a lot of hype around him. Alabama's listed as the favorite, and they need him badly because Alabama's lost, 2 or 3 wide receivers have gone to the portal. So, having Kevin Concepcion alongside Ryan Williams could be really good for Bama moving forward. But I think the real question that everyone's wondering is what's happening with Jalen Milroe. Is he going to declare for the draft? Is he staying another year? And to be honest, I think that's a big reason they've been losing wide receivers. I think that's why they lost Prentice. I think that's why they lost Kendrick Law. That's why they lost. I think there was another one, Odom or something like that. I think that's why they lost those guys, is because at the end of the day, they don't trust that Jalen Milroe can consistently get them the football, and he's proven that he can't consistently get them the football. And so they want to go someplace else, especially when they don't know if he's coming back next year. And I think that's just the mindset. Jalen Milroe, quite simply, is more of a runner than he is a passer at this point. And he's shown to be a very flawed passer. And that's the reality. Micah Hudson, wide receiver at Texas Tech. You can see a trend here with wide receivers being the big one. Micah Hudson, he was a 5-star coming out of high school. Committed to Texas Tech, didn't really play much, and he's pretty much looks like a lock to go to Texas A&M. I like that move for Micah. I like that move for Texas A&M 100,000%. Although I wonder if Marcel Reed can get him the football consistently as well. There's also Ben Bell, an edge rusher at a Texas State. Doesn't really have anyone listed here for where he could end up. The number 5 player in the portal right now, Dane Key, wide receiver out of Kentucky, currently is looking like a lock to go to Georgia, which, as a Georgia fan, I would love to have Dane Key. I know there was a lot of noise with Georgia, with Dane Key and Eric Singleton Jr. when they've both entered the portal. And look, I would have loved to have gotten both of them. I knew that'd be hard to do, so I at least wanted one of them. And if that one of them is Dane Key, I can 100% live with that. I think Dane Key is a tremendous football player, a tremendous wide receiver, and he had an okay year with Kentucky, but a lot of that was because Brock Vandagriff wasn't able to get him the ball consistently, and Kentucky didn't have good quarterbacks. Takario Davis, corner out of Arizona, going into the transfer portal was truly surprising to me, along with, I don't know if it's Mansour or Mansour Delane out of Virginia Tech, Both those corners are very good players. I could have seen both of them declaring for the draft, but I guess they're coming back, and they're both in the portal. And so whoever wants those two guys, they're going to get a good football player. Got Max Clare, a tight end out of Purdue. He is at 100% to Louisville. I know that he also, I think, was in talks with LSU, but it looks like Louisville might end up getting him. That's a good move for Louisville. He's a solid player. The other Kentucky wide receiver, Barian Brown, he's the speedster. He's 100% to LSU. I saw this the other day. I love this for LSU. LSU is going to need a wide receiver. I don't know if Kyron Lacey is declaring for the draft or not. I think Kyron Lacey should come back to LSU for another year. And if you pair him alongside Barian Brown, that could be really good for LSU. Along with Nick Anderson, who is a wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Texas A&M and LSU pretty much tied, it looks like, for him. I think if LSU is able to land Barian Brown and Nick Anderson, that is a really good haul in the wide receiver room for LSU. Dylan Thieneman, a top-tier safety, the number one safety in the portal, out of Purdue, about 53% Ohio State, 46% Oregon. Both of those teams could really use Thieneman, and whichever one gets him is going to have a really good ball player. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Cal, who I had watched a little bit this year. I was surprised when I saw his name enter the portal, but then maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I know I saw something where there's some noise with him in Georgia, which was a little surprising. But, I watched his highlights, so I definitely wouldn't. Look, I'm never going to say no to grabbing a quarterback out of the portal. In my opinion, you can never have enough quarterbacks. Okay, it's the most important position in football, and it's not even close. So if Kirby and the staff feel like Fernando could be a difference maker at the quarterback position for us and could be an upgrade, I will 100% accept that. 100%. And honestly, I would just really enjoy having a guy named Fernando on Georgia personally. I told my wife when General Booty, the quarterback out of Louisiana Monroe, entered the portal that I wanted him to come to Georgia just so I can get a Georgia jersey that says Booty on the back of it. I just think that would be amazing personally. But I will take Fernando Mendoza. I can accept that. Williams Nwaneri, I think is how you say his last name. He was a 5-star who committed to Missouri. He was one of the best players coming out of high school. What was it, last year? And he's now leaving Missouri to go to Nebraska. That's a big get for. He officially committed and signed with Nebraska, so he's for sure going there. That's a big get for Nebraska. I've heard a lot of things with Nebraska in the portal, so I really expect Nebraska to be making a lot more moves. CJ Daniels, wide receiver at LSU. Part of the reason LSU needs receivers is because CJ Daniels is leaving. Looks like he's a 38% to go to Auburn. Again, that could be along with, if you have Cam Coleman, CJ Daniels, Eric Singleton Jr., I think that would be fantastic going forward next year for Auburn for whatever quarterback they get. Darian Mensah, was surprised to see him leaving Tulane. Honestly, I thought he could go to a better team than he ended up going. He's going to Duke. I thought he could end up at a better team, but Duke got a good one, and they needed a good one because Malik Murphy entered the portal. I'll be very interested to see where Malik ends up. Let's see. Anyone else? Julian Humphrey. Who cares where that bum goes? I sure don't. I wanted to talk about this guy, Fluff Bothwell. First of all, the name is generational. Second of all, he's a running back out of South Alabama. I actually heard a lot about him this season. He was amazing for South Alabama. So I'll be really interested to see where he ends up personally. Isaiah World, I've said this before. I think I said this on Tuesday when that was the day he announced he was getting into the portal. Or no, sorry, Monday. Because I recorded on Monday, but you saw the episode on Tuesday. I really would. I'm going to love to see where Isaiah World ends up. Malik Murphy looks like a lock to Auburn. So as I've been saying, I mean, can you imagine Auburn next season? Imagine what they were this season, how bad that offense was. And then imagine next season you see Malik Murphy throwing to Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton Jr., CJ Daniels. I mean, come on. That would be a tremendous upgrade for Auburn. The fans cannot be mad at that, surely. Jackson Arnold, I still think he's a lock for Mississippi State. Patrick Kudas, interior lineman out of Arkansas, he committed to Ole Miss. Connor Wegman committed to Houston. Let's see, Deshaun Womack, edge out of LSU, he's going to Ole Miss. Let's see, anybody else? Jaheim Otis, defensive lineman out of Alabama, looks like he's going to Colorado. So yeah, those are the top 50 guys as of right now. I know there were some today that got announced. See if I can go find them real quick. Let's see. Oh, wow. There's a lot of Georgia guys being announced today, huh? A lot of Georgia players entering the portal. We've had 3 in the past few hours. Let's see. So Georgia safety Justin Rhett plans to enter the transfer portal. Now, again, you have to notice there's a difference between plans to enter the transfer portal and has officially entered the transfer portal. They're very different things. If they says it plans, then they could withdraw. It was the same thing with Nitro Tuggle, the Georgia wide receiver. It said he planned to enter the transfer portal, and then later that day, he withdrew from the transfer portal and announced he was staying. The same thing with Samuel Mpemba, plans to enter the transfer portal. You know, there was a lot of hype around him when he came into Georgia, and he just hasn't really played. I don't know if that's simply because of how much depth we have at his position. I think he's an edge rusher, outside linebacker, because Georgia is not struggling in that area. We have a ton of depth there, so it could be because of that, or maybe he's just not as good. I don't know. And then Georgia linebacker Troy Bowles also plans to enter the transfer portal. We'll see if all of them officially enter or if Georgia can talk to any of them and keep them. Former Auburn QB Hank Brown is going to go to Iowa. That's a good move for him. He's a young guy. Iowa could always use a QB because they always suck at QB. Let's see. Florida transfer edge Jack Pyburn has locked in 2 visits to Texas A&M and LSU. That could be a good get for both of those programs. He's a solid player. Michigan QB Alex Orji is planning to transfer. I wonder where he's going to transfer. Walmart? He should probably be bagging my groceries at Walmart. Is probably what he should be doing. Or is that disrespectful? Maybe that's too disrespectful to say. I don't know, but just being honest. Yeah, and this guy Julian Humphrey, I'm sorry, I bring him up every episode. I cannot stand this guy. I mean, he has a top, how many teams is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. He has like a top 22 out there. Like, bro, give me a break. Just pick a place. You know what? And Julian, I see the teams on this list. Please go to Texas or Alabama. I want nothing more than your bum self to end up at Texas or Alabama. We play both of them next year. Please go there. Go to Ohio State. I beg, Julian. My brother-in-law, who's an Ohio State fan, he's going to get real acquainted with how much of a bum you are. Please go to Ohio State. I beg. I want nothing more. I want nothing more. But let me calm down. Let me calm down. Let me calm down. As far as what I think that Georgia needs in the portal, as because they're my team. I think a bunch of things. Well, I actually don't think a bunch of things, but I think a part of it depends on who all leaves through the portal. If we need to replace any of that, wide receiver, I think is number one. I wouldn't mind getting another quarterback. But I would say wide receiver is the most important thing. Personally, I wouldn't mind us getting another corner. That's just my opinion on it. I know we have a lot of depth at the position, but to me, quarterback, wide receiver, corner, those are three positions where if there's a really good player out there, why not just go and get them? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you can't have enough depth at those three positions. I wouldn't mind us going out and getting another running back. Fluff Bothwell. Bring Fluff Bothwell to Athens. I doubt that will happen, but oh my gosh, I would be ecstatic if that happened. Although I think Trevor Etienne will end up coming back next season. Maybe that's just me coping, but I hope so because he's only a junior. But we'll see. So, like I said, a little bit of a shorter episode. I hope actually, 25 minutes, not bad. I know I started kind of rambling and talking fast about the transfer portal. There's just so much going on. It feels impossible to see everything and keep up with everything with the transfer portal. But I'll be back with another episode on Tuesday. More bowl picks, more transfer portal news. That's pretty much what you can expect until the playoffs start. I hope everyone has a great Friday. And go Dogs.